Beast, what's good? What's good? Good morning to you, brother. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Beast, you are correct. It is almost time for Shador. That's actually going to be the first topic we cover today. This is going to be the first time the Cleveland Browns are putting out good or actually leaking good information about Shador to the media. This is the first time we're going to hear something good about Shador. So let me get this turned down in the background. Let me get my screen all set up. And people are just starting to catch up to where we've been. So, Beast, you've been here. You know, I've been calling these things early. And I remember I said Kevin Stefanski could get on the hot seat. Good morning. Good morning. Beast, I remember I said Kevin Stefanski could be on the hot seat. And you said, what do you mean by being on the hot seat? And I said, fans will turn on Kevin Stefanski very fast. You remember I said that a couple games ago? I said that a couple games ago. And look, this morning, everybody is now starting to say, man, Kevin Stefanski, I just don't know. He's not that creative. He mismanaged the game. So welcome to where we've been at. they finally catching up. All right, how many games do you think Shador going to get? I think he's going to get more than we think. You were on to something. You were on to something, Beast. You came out the gate swinging early. So I think Shador is probably, they got, 13? Let me see. We are 1-4, so we already played. We got 12 games to go. Shador might be looking at getting 6, between 6 and 8 games if Dillon Gabriel don't do something, because what they are doing is they are layering pressure on top of pressure. So everything they do, every change they make, they're layering additional pressure on top of it, and people are going to look for answers and want answers sooner. So they're like, look, you got to get to the point. Dillon Gabriel, even if he's not the reason why they lose, if the Browns lose the next 4 games, we're going to say we done with Dillon Gabriel. You got to go to the next person. We got to find a spark. Dillon Gabriel was supposed to be the spark. He wasn't the spark. Another thing, Beast, 2 weeks ago, I talked about, man, they're going to lose again. They're going to put Dillon Gabriel out there. He's going to go against my second favorite defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, and then it's not going to be what you think. Dillon Gabriel didn't make any mistakes because they didn't give him the opportunity to make any mistakes, but that's part of the reason why they lost. And then just watching that, all 22 ain't come out yet, but just at first watch, I only watched the game one time. To me, it seems like they were looking at the Browns offense and say, you know what? We don't even have to go exotic. We don't even have to show them that much. We know we can stop them. And that's kind of what I saw. So if you notice, the last week, I didn't mention Brian Flores. I didn't mention him because everybody was finally catching up to, oh, that's who the defensive coordinator is. So everybody is just a week late. Now they're saying, oh, man, Pittsburgh, going into Pittsburgh is going to be tough. If Kevin Stefanski run this similar offense he ran this week, it's going to be an L in Pittsburgh too. Pittsburgh blitzes the second most behind Minnesota. So that was one thing I noticed. Minnesota wasn't blitzing because they didn't have to. Then Pittsburgh is the second. There's right behind them in blitzing, and they blitz and put zone coverage behind it, which could also confuse a young quarterback. So now they're starting to say, man, Dillon Gabriel played like this. Why do we ever put in Joe Flacco? So, it's just these situations that I just kind of laugh at because I'm like, okay, you had to be thinking forward. I thought y'all said the Vikings defense was the top defense. The defense looked okay. I think their defense looked okay too. They're a top pass defense. To me, they just weren't showing anything. They didn't have to. They didn't have to put anything on film for other teams to see. They didn't have to show anything new. They didn't have to show anything exotic. There was no point. The Browns were playing it so safe that they just said, we don't even have to disguise it. Disguising it, you would just put film out so good teams can see what you're doing. Also, the other side of it is Kevin O'Donnell easily outcoached Kevin Stefanski, and he had Jim Schwartz and the defense one step slow the entire game. And there was some things that they did that I saw in real time. So if you heard me yesterday live, I was saying, hey, they're making them use gap integrity. They're doing toss plays, making sure that D end is maintaining their leverage. Harris was good. Let's get it. So much to talk about. So much to talk about. You are correct. We got so much to talk about today. They were making sure they play sound defense, because when a defense is aggressive, the way to slow them down is not fight fire with fire. The way to slow them down is to make sure they are playing sound across the board. Sound across the board. Everybody's going to be talking about certain plays that happen in that game, but they built on things they did early to take advantage of it late. So if you notice, they started going at Denzel Ward late. So then they were getting the Browns out of man coverage. And they caught the Browns in zone. So everybody says, oh, why were the Browns in zone? They should have been in man. That play wouldn't have worked. What do you think was going on the other side of the field? That's the question. What was happening on the other side of the field where if they would have been in man, that's where they would have went? Greg Newsome would have been one-on-one with Justin Jefferson in short space. They would have threw him the ball. So they got the Browns second guessing, and they got the Browns getting out of their true instincts as a defense. That is called scheme, my friends. So when I talk about Kevin Stefanski's scheme is not there. He does not attack pressure points on the defense. We saw somebody attack pressure points on the defense yesterday. Now, everybody is going to get to it and start talking about it now, and now they're going to start questioning it. How many weeks have I been saying the Browns can't beat cover one? I've been saying it forever. The Browns can't beat cover one. And nobody wanted to hear it. You notice nobody on the radio talks about it. Nobody on any of these other shows talks about it. I made a very big point in saying that because the more you can stay in cover one, the more you can cloud up the middle of the field, man on the outside, and say you have to beat me with a scheme. And they knew Kevin Stefanski's scheme couldn't beat him. So, hey, that's what it was. Also, I'm giving y'all some answers today. Everybody's looking for answers. So I got the answers. Normally, it would be this.
Relax. You ain't got the answers. Bro, I'm asking you ain't been doing the education.
That's what it would be. You ain't got the answers, but I got the answers, y'all. I got the answers. You're going to see a lot of people say the Browns are in this situation because they traded for Deshaun Watson. You're going to see people say Deshaun Watson's salary cap is messing us up. You're going to see them say you can't get rid of Andrew Berry because look at this draft class he has this year. You're going to hear them say, still, as people defending Kevin Stefanski, this is the next trick they're trying to use. They're going to say, this is a bad team. What coach could do anything with this team? Then they're going to say, this team has no offensive talent. That's what they're going to say. These are all the things that they're going to throw out there to try to defend losing. Don't worry. I got the answers for you. Zedric, what's good? I think this Dinkin and Duncan is going to require a pivot in ideology. Man, Zedric came out the gate and just hit a 4-pointer. Out the gate. He's shooting from big three. He liked the big three. He shot the 4-pointer straight out the gate. Ideology and system go hand in hand. They are bad. They're bad. So I'm going to give y'all the answers. But one thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to hold y'all up. I believe it was Harris. Harris asked me yesterday. He said, hey, did you see the report from Ian Rappaport? And at the moment, I didn't see it. But when y'all mention things to me, I look into them. I'm not the one to just say, hey, thank you for that. I actually let the person know who told me, who put it on my board, and say, hey, check this out. So shout out to you, Harris, for putting that on my board. That's going to be the first story. The first story we get to is going to be about what Ian Rappaport said. Let's get off of that. We're going to get to them later. So he's examining the Cleveland Browns quarterback room. And we're not going to watch this whole thing. Eventually, what it gets to is, in this article, we don't care about the Joe Flacco part. This is the first time the Cleveland Browns have came out and defended Shedeur Sanders. This is the first time they've sent out some good things to the people that they want to report on Shedeur Sanders. The Rex Ryan situation, I was very explosive and hyped up about that. And I said, if people are telling you where Shedeur is sitting, you need to fire everybody because there are cracks in the ship. It's water getting in and you can't control it. So then they come out the next week and they, right before the game, this was early, so it had to be during the game. Harris told me about this. He said, hey, you see what Ian Rappaport said. So the Browns said, basically they repeated what Cody Kessler said that we reviewed, I think a week ago at this point. It was either last Monday or last Wednesday, where they were defending their reasoning for not making Shedeur the number 2 quarterback. And we didn't want to make him the number 2 quarterback because then he would be playing, he would be getting the game plan that was designed for Dillon Gabriel, and we want to make sure he goes through a week of practice. Basically the same thing Cody Kessler said. So I think they watched social media, then put their answers out. But the key thing they said is, they said Shedeur Sanders will play. That was the key. Out of everything, that whole article, all this scrolling, all this reading, all this stuff, the main point in this article is Shedeur Sanders will play. A lot of people were questioning why he hasn't played. If you notice, yesterday, Rex Ryan had to speak totally different when he was speaking on Shedeur. He couldn't just come out there and say Shedeur wasn't doing what he wasn't supposed to. The local media can't ask Shedeur, what do you need to do so you can get out there? What do you need to do better? So this is the first positive PR the Browns sent out for Shedeur. Timing of the article is interesting. I give DG 3 games. Kevin getting desperate. That's it. It's just pressure on pressure on pressure. The more desperate you are, the worse your decision making gets. And then you start to jump off things. So all on Cleveland radio this morning, they're saying Kevin Stefanski is so haunted by the interceptions that he keeps going. He's telling everybody, don't throw, being super conservative. Nah, that's an excuse. That's an excuse they're trying to give Kevin for this year. But if you go back last year when we wasn't scoring no points, what was the excuse then? See what I'm saying? I posted on Ian's page, why do the team keep saying he's not ready, but Shedeur said himself he is ready? That's a great question. That is a great question. See, when somebody wants to lie to you, I believe this, and there's nobody that can get me off this train of thought, this line of thinking. When somebody wants to lie to you, they give you a goal or something that you have to reach that's not quantifiable. So they say he's not ready. What does that even mean? What does he's not ready mean? They also told us Dillon Gabriel wasn't ready. What does that mean? They told us Joe Flacco was ready. He looked the worst. They told us Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur were not ready. Dillon Gabriel has looked better than Joe Flacco in his first start with all the circumstances surrounding it. So those are lies. That's all it is. When you hear the is no quantifiable way, is no legit goal that you can hit, that's a lie. So it means nothing. It's air. Backtrack like a DB. Yep. Zedric, you're talking about Rex Ryan. That's exactly what he did. He did not keep that same energy. He did not stand on business. He switched up very quick. So to me, this is the Browns trying to clean up the mess they made. The Browns have made so many missteps during this entire process, and people were called conspiracy theorists. They were called all these different things. They made nicknames for people who are fans of Shedeur, which I'm not going to do. They did all these things, and they kept telling us to trust Kevin Stefanski. I always said, do you trust Kevin Stefanski? to make these decisions, now nobody trusts Kevin Stefanski. So when I didn't trust Kevin Stefanski in the summer, people said I was in conspiracy theories. Now nobody trusts Kevin Stefanski. So what does that make everybody? Questions you got to ask yourself. Lying with no accountability. I agree. Yeah, it's gonna get dark real early. It's gonna get dark really early. That means Shedeur Sanders refuses to follow Kevin Stefanski's playbook because he knows it doesn't work and they keep losing. You're onto something there. I think what Shedeur will do, and people are just picking up on this. He said this during the Carolina game. He kept saying, I want a deep ball. I want a deep ball on the sidelines. People are going back to that clip. And a deep ball is what opens up the defense so you can do things underneath. You can run the ball better, all that. The reason why I got to a point the Browns offense struggled so much yesterday to move the ball was because there was no threat of the deep ball. The reason why all those out routes didn't work that they said Dillon Gabriel was so great at, the reason why they didn't work is because it was no threat of the deep ball. They knew that he just throwing it to the sideline, so at any moment you just undercut it. The pass and the touchdown he threw to Isaiah Bond, undercut. Coming across the middle, David Njoku, undercut. And when it's in the field of play, they just undercut it. To the sidelines, they undercut it, where Dillon Gabriel was just throwing the ball out of bounds. So I think what Shedeur will do is he will identify cover one and say they're press man in cover one. I'm throwing the ball up to Isaiah Bond. Do this. He even said that on the sideline versus Carolina. So remember, they didn't look too happy with Shedeur after the Carolina game when everybody was happy. And the reason why was because he was changing things on the fly where it made sense to change things. And they don't want that. Kevin Stefanski wants you to do exactly what he says do and don't change nothing. And Dillon Gabriel will do that. And then Dillon Gabriel will be in a press conference looking frustrated. Because then you realize this falls on me. You got me looking crazy out here because you don't let me take a chance. So that's what it goes to. All they had to do was be more transparent in the early stages. They drew too much attention and had to throw darts to quiet the noise. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So they made a mess of it. They made a big mess of it. And then they tried to clean it up. You see, they had that banner in London with Shedeur and Travis on it. I did see that. Tony Grossi posted it and said, oh, they don't recognize Shedeur is not starting. And then this morning, Tony Grossi went on the radio talking about he can't really believe in Kevin Stefanski no more. And Tony Grossi, who was championing Dillon Gabriel this entire offseason into the season, he's going to be so good. Tony Grossi ain't keeping that same energy. Nobody is keeping the same energy they had from the beginning with the guys that they attached their name to. In the summer, I said, I'm attaching my name to Shedeur Sanders. I believe he's going to be the best out of this draft, and I'm standing on that. And these guys who attach their name to other people, they are not standing on it. They switching it up. Now, when I'm getting ready for the show, I'm looking at a lot of different things. And if you ever put a person in front of me that believes there is no way to win, then what you have put in front of me is a loser. That's what you've done. And unfortunately, the Cleveland Browns have people who root for them who are losers. And I don't mean loser in a like derogatory way, like loser at life. I mean they have the losing mentality and they can't see themselves out of a box because they're so used to losing. My dad always used to tell me, find a way to win. Inside of you, there has to be a will for you to find a way to win. And I'm going to show you some people who have a loser mentality who are pushing the narratives to defend Kevin Stefanski when there's no way to defend him. And then we're going to just look at their track record. I think the wheels are turning to get KS out of there. This is working out in Shedeur's favor. I agree. I also think at this rate, by the time Shedeur gets to play, Kevin Stefanski might not be allowed to call plays because his offense might be that bad. And I think that'll work in Shedeur's favor. I think it'll work in his favor. So let's get to the next thing. So as I'm thinking, like, where are we going to take this show? How are we going to get to all my points? And I basically need people who don't agree with how I view things to show you why the way they view things don't make sense and why my viewpoint is more sound. And this is the first part. This is going to be kind of a longer clip, but I got to let y'all see the tactics they're going to play. Remember I said I'm going to give you the answers? I just needed a video to show you how many hoops and hurdles a person with a loser mentality is willing to go through instead of finding a way to win. And then I'm going to show y'all examples and times where other people have done similar things as the Browns and still found a way to win. What do you know that? Let's go. Let's get it.
You got your head coach, you got your D coordinator, but your offensive coordinator, either fire them or they go take another job. And Kevin Stefanski is available. Are you bringing in Kevin Stefanski to be your offensive coordinator, to run your offense?
I don't know if I am, but he would be hired. He would be hired.
That's not what I'm asking. Would you take him to run your team?
I guess it depends on the personnel. Like if you've got...
It's getting real, y'all. It's getting real. He asked him a real question with a straight face. Would you take Kevin Stefanski? Would you hire him to be your offensive coordinator? His answer is no. He does not want to say no. He's dancing around why he can't say no. If you have an offensive-minded coach that you would not hire, that means the offensive-minded coach is not good. So let's play the same game. Let's go down the list. And I want y'all to stop me in the chat when I get to offensive-minded coach that you would not take over Kevin Stefanski. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to start with Kyle Shanahan. We're going to go Sean McVay. I'm going to cheat. We're going to go Andy Reid. We're going to go Shane Steichen. We're going to go Kevin O'Donnell. We're going to go, Ben Johnson. Would y'all take any of these offensive coaches? Would y'all take Kevin Stefanski over any of these coaches? Anybody? Crickets. Nobody would. Nobody would. The loud part out is the quiet part's out loud. 8:45 approaching. Google Life. It's a fact. It's getting dark early. So how can you tell me that you want to hold on to him? Nobody would take him. Nobody would take him. And I just named y'all some. Mike McDaniels. You taking Mike McDaniels as an OC over? You taking Mike McDaniels as an OC over Kevin Stefanski? Don't worry. I'll wait. You taking Sean Payton? Should I keep going? Don't worry. I'll wait. Put me in and I could do better. Facts. Flores was easy on DG. Somebody saw it. Charmaine, you saw it. He was not trying to confuse him. He was like, we don't even have to unload our clip in this game. It's no point. It will be a waste. We will be wasting our good stuff that we can use versus other good teams is worth it. Even he figured it out. So I got to play some more of that for y'all because the first thing they're going to say is, if we fire Kevin Stefanski, who would you take? Anybody but Kevin Stefanski. The next thing they're going to say, if we fire Kevin Stefanski, he's going to get hired by somebody else. You can have him and all his mediocrity. Take him. Take him. Make my life easier. Take him. Let's keep going.
I'm just saying.
Jesus
I'm just
Christ.
saying. If you've got a guy, the thing that is frustrating with me is I feel like we went away from what Kevin Stefanski was good at. You know what I mean? Like
that means he went away from what he did. That's on him.
And that's what I'm saying. Some of the
we
things
didn't go away from anything. We don't. Our offensive roster is the worst in football.
I know.
So now we're going to keep going through it. We're going to keep answering the questions. I said, I'm going to give you all answers. The guy in the middle said, good morning, Ms. Brown. How you feeling? You feeling better? Hopefully you're feeling better, Ms. Brown. The guy in the middle, that's another tactic they're going to use. They're going to say, we don't have the talent. And then this is where we start to do a little circle jerk that don't make sense. We don't have the talent. Okay. I know a team that put out a way worse offense than the Cleveland Browns did yesterday, and they won. I'm going to show y'all. I'm going to give y'all the answers. So when people try all these tactics, it's not going to work. That's his first tactic. He changes the subject. That's the first one he does. No other team thinks like that. They know they aren't getting enough and get rid of him. There you go. That's facts, Cedric.
He was part of that.
No, he's not the GM. Blame
They
the
said
GM.
they make all their decisions together.
Okay.
You tell me he has no say in personnel?
He might have some say in the personnel, but at the end of the day, the GM is the one. I've never met.
There we go. Now he's deflecting to the GM. I don't want the GM here. I've been going at the GM before I start going at the coach. So we can go past this part of it because I don't want the GM here. Let's go.
Get rid of Barry too.
That's what I said. You're blaming a head coach for a team that is rolling out Leviston at left tackle right now.
Hey, man.
Leviston.
It starts at the top. He's the only head coach in the NFL who cannot get blamed for being this bad.
I'm not saying he gets no blame. I'm not saying he gets no blame. I just said
what do you blame him for?
Obviously, like there's more creativity you can add to the offense, but you have to be realistic. We've seen this guy be good when he doesn't have the worst players in the league.
Let's take the offense out though. What about blowing close games like this? Good coaches, good coached teams, well-prepared teams win these games. They don't lose them.
Well, was the defense? Did we not have the lead with 3 minutes to go?
We did. We should have won.
How many times are you gonna blame somebody else? So he blamed the GM. He said the team isn't good. He said the wide receiver 1 is really a wide receiver 3. He asked him about management, clock management. He didn't have an answer. He blamed the defense. You see? He done went and blamed everybody. He dancing around this thing. Everybody but the coach. Everybody but the coach.
With our best unit on the field, sometimes the players has to play. What's Kevin Stefanski supposed to do? He gave his team the lead.
By all means, go call timeout for the Minnesota Vikings.
He didn't call the first timeout until they're in field goal range.
Why call the timeout?
So you have time. If he doesn't call the timeouts, they run it down to nothing and score. We don't even have a chance.
Well, that means you're counting on them to score. They scored anyway.
Yeah,
they use all the time. Because then, if you're Russian,
if they scored anyway, so you're saying you would have rather
they went and made their game.
You're saying you would have rather have let them eat up the whole clock and score a touchdown
they did it anyway. They did it anyway.
Yes, and because we
remember I said when a person gives you no answers and believe there's no way to win, that's a loser. This is loser mentality right here. This is loser mentality. He asked him what he would have done differently. What I would have done was I would have left the pressure. I would have never taken the time out. I would never took no timeouts. I would have let them, because what they were going to do is if they couldn't drive up the field and you can't keep letting them reset themselves, they probably would have just played for the field goal. You would have won in the overtime. You'd have had a better chance of winning. I would have kept all the pressure on them until there was no pressure on them. 9 out of 10 head coaches would not have handled that the way Kevin Stefanski did. That's a fact. Barry will probably end up sticking around a little longer. This draft class is carrying a lot of his water right now. He has one trump card. He has one get out of jail free card sitting on the bench. But Andrew Berry's not cleaning this. He had no faith in the defense. Harris from Sports, you were on it. The defense, all of the drives that where Minnesota went up the field and scored, all of them were 70-plus yard drives. They were long, extended drives. The defense was getting ripped apart. The way that Kevin O'Donnell had the defense on his heels, he knew he couldn't rely on the defense. The problem is you should have left the pressure on them. Make them make the decisions. Don't concede. Basically, Kevin Stefanski was conceding that they were going to score. That's how he went into thinking about it. That's a losing mentality. Let's get a little bit more into what he's going to try to do. All this is setting up.
20 seconds to go score.
All of this is setting up. This one clip I'm showing y'all, this is setting up the rest of the entire show. They ran play action on the touchdown to Harold Fannin and maybe once or twice. I haven't rewatched the game yet, but I don't think they used play action in situations where they could have used it for sure.
Score.
Oh yeah, we're gonna go score in 20 seconds.
So you're gonna sit here with a straight face right now and argue with me that it would have been better to let them score with a walk off.
Oh, I agree with you, Cedric. It doesn't stand out. It doesn't stand out them running play action and taking advantage of an aggressive defense.
First of all, it's never better to let them score. It's better to make them go out there and run hurry up offense, try to get the ball out of bounds. If they don't get out of bounds, they have to run up, try to spike it, lose it down.
There was 2 minutes. They had plenty of time. They had a 2 minute.
So now he's dancing. He's shuffling right now. His points don't make sense. So he's going. They were talking about when they were on plus side of the field and it was under 2 minutes when Kevin Stefanski started calling timeouts. Now he's going back to it was 3 minutes. That's not gonna work. But we're gonna really get to the crux of what he really means.
2-minute warning and a timeout. Teams.
You're not.
We watched a team go down the score in 13 seconds 2 years ago in a playoff game.
I will say, let me throw something
once they got into field goal range, you had to start taking your timeouts to try to preserve clock for when you got the ball back.
Dude, it was going to be a tie game.
Even the announcer said that. They took the first one, and the announcers were like, "This is about conserving time now." Like he didn't call. It's not like he called it on their first down play when they started.
His arguments are so bad that he's trying to use what other people said to defend what he's saying right now.
About 80 yards to go. Once they got into field goal range, it's like, okay, I have to save some time so we have a chance to go win this game at the end.
Yeah, it worked out real well.
Oh, my God. Hindsight's 2020. Monday morning quarterback over here.
What about, so hear me out on this. What about even the previous drive where it's third down and we just throw it out of bounds?
Like, we're using like this year as the benchmark to say we should fire the coach when we knew we weren't going to be good this year?
I'm just saying, man, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a while.
I don't think that we're using
like
this year.
We're like one off season away from being good.
I hope so.
I wanted y'all to hear that point. He said they are one offseason away. The Browns are one offseason away from being good. Does anybody in the chat believe the Browns are one offseason away from being good? Does anybody believe that? Actually, let's do a poll. Let me put up a poll. Right, Judkins had 110 yards, a successful running game, and no play action. Facts. Judkins really carried the offense. Facts. It's crazy. It's crazy how they try to defend it. Let's get a poll up for y'all. Let's start a poll. Based on what he just said, are the Browns one offseason away from being good? These people dance themselves. They paint themselves in the corner. So I'm going to put that poll up. Let me know what y'all think about it. Now it's time. It's time, y'all. We suffered through the loser mentality and listening to that all so we can surgically break it down point by point. But we're going to break this thing down point by point and show you how those aren't the answers, and we have better answers to the questions. They could probably be better this year with better play calling. Line didn't look out of it yesterday. I agree. The line did a little bit better. Penalties are a problem. The problem with the penalties is they were one of the most penalized teams last year. So that's something that the Browns have always had it. Not always. The last couple of seasons, the Browns have had issues with penalties, so they're just going back to their ways. That's coaching. Let's get to it. Now, the first person he wants to blame is Andrew Berry. Let's look at Andrew Berry. So we can't prepare for this. Here we go. Andrew Berry has been with the Cleveland Browns for 6 years. Let's go back to 2020. 2020 draft class. So few players are on this roster, it doesn't make sense. His first draft, we took Jedrick Wills, number 10 overall. He's not on the team. We took Grant Delpit. He is on the team. No other player from his 2020 draft class is on the team 5 years later. His 2021 draft class, we took Greg Newsome, number 26 overall. We took JOK, number 52. And nobody else is on the team from 2021. So how are you defending this guy if you look at it? What's up, Mary S? Leshador Cook, he's a great chess piece that could help Cleveland themselves get rid of Stefanski ASAP. Hey, I like what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I agree. All right, let's go 2022 because this is where it's going to get shaky, where everybody's going to try to use and say this is the reason why the Browns are not good was because of the Deshaun Watson trade. So let's look at it. Martin Emerson, Alex Wright are on the team. David Bell has been injured. Perrion Winfrey, not on the team. K. York, not on the team. Jerome Ford is on the team. He should not be on the team. And the other guys are not on the team. 2023, Cedric Tillman is hurt. He probably shouldn't be on the team. Siaka Ika is not on the team. DeJuan Jones is injured. Isaiah McGuire, that's a good pick. He's balling. DTR, not on the team. Cam Mitchell just got cut. Luke Weipler can't get on the field. 2024, Mike Hall is injured. Zach Zenner can't get on the team. Jamari Thrasher's playing yesterday. Nathaniel Watson, that sounds like a made-up name. Miles Harden is still on the team. This year would be his best draft class, but even this year's draft class doesn't make sense. This year's draft class, he took 2 running backs, 2 quarterbacks, when obviously you see we have so many holes we need to fill. So if you go back, it's not really that much defense for Andrew Berry because prior to the 2024 class, majority of his draft picks are not on the team. Just in 6 draft classes, majority of them are not on the team. That's not a person who's good at drafting. So I know some people say this draft class might save him. The previous GM had way better draft classes than Andrew Berry. He got fired. That's how they walked into such a great team. He got fired because he picked the wrong head coach. So one draft does not save your job when it's been 6 years. Cleveland need to draft 2 wide receivers, 2 online. That's a fact. Not using Dylan Sampson now. That's a fact. Kevin Stefanski has always struggled to use pieces on the chessboard correctly. Dylan Sampson, we should be running 2. We should have 2 backs in the backfield. Dylan Sampson should be getting matched up on linebackers like crazy. He is not figuring that out. And the offensive line is bad. I remember somebody asked me that I want Mason Graham or that I want Will Campbell. I watched Will Campbell last night. Will Campbell would have been the best tackle that is suited up for the Browns this whole year if he was on the Browns. So I'm looking at Mason Graham. I'm looking at our defensive line, and I'm like, man, we put a lot into that defensive line. As bad as our offensive line is, I'm kind of teetering. Like, we probably should have took Will Campbell. Tony, this is called karma. All the lies all through the offseason and preseason about 12 not being ready yet. It was Joe and DG with all the status from OTAs and training camp ring to be true. 12 extended drive. Facts. They need to get Jordan Seaton from Colorado O-line. I think Seaton has 1 more year. I was looking at it. I think he has 1 more year. Need to trade Jerome Ford while they can. I don't know what you get for him. Jerome Ford, I don't know what you get for him. There's so many third backs who are better than Jerome Ford. Put Gage and Luka in with Shador, draft some O-line wide receivers. I think that could help. Look like they put all their focus on defense instead of total team. I would have to agree with you there, Marie. They definitely went all out on defense, and it's starting to show. It's definitely starting to show. So that's Andrew Berry. Once you look at the big picture for Andrew Berry, this draft class is not enough. And the reason why it's not enough is because up at this point, until we see what Shador can do in this situation, you would still say the Cleveland Browns have not secured key positions that they need for years. The offensive line is worse than what it was when he got here. He hasn't drafted well to the offensive line. Receivers are worse than what it was when he got here. So these key points, he hasn't been able to do it the whole time. So then how do you believe in a person who has shown for years he is not good at drafting these positions? How do you just say, give him another year? It's hard to say that. I wouldn't give him another year. I would not do that. Now, it's other teams that started off in a worse circumstances than the Cleveland Browns, and they are way past the Cleveland Browns where they are currently in this day. There's some worse teams. Seaton is a sophomore. I wish Jordan was coming out. He is a beast. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought he had 1 more year. I started looking at PFF and trying to find some tackles that I could start watching who are grading out well, and it's slim pickings for tackles. Slim pickings. Now, this is the Browns' record. The Browns are 41-48 since 2020 when Kevin Stefanski took over. That is a losing coach. That's a losing coach. So we look at the roster. We say the roster is worse than what it was when they both got here. They say everything is a collaboration. The roster's worse. The record's bad. He's a losing coach. So what are these things that we're using to say we should keep Kevin Stefanski? What are they? Now, what people don't want to do is, because they will find the answers, they don't want to look at other people who are offensive-minded coaches and the situations that they're in and how they got out of those situations. So let's look at Kevin Stefanski when he first was hired. Why are we going back? Actually, let's not do that. Let's do it. Let's go to Kevin Stefanski when he first got hired. And this is the reason why I'm going to use this comparison. This is Cleveland media who did this. Kevin Stefanski did in his second game what Kyle Shanahan never did in 2014. So Cleveland media was calling Kevin Stefanski better than Kyle Shanahan in 2020. Cleveland media did this. They attached these guys at the hip because everybody talked about how good Kyle Shanahan was. So Cleveland media said Kevin is better than him. Kevin is not in the same class as Kyle Shanahan. It's not even close. Kyle Shanahan has overcame some of the similar things that Kevin Stefanski hasn't been able to overcome. So that's where it started. Let's look at it. Kyle Shanahan, he got hired. He left the Browns. He was in Cleveland. He left the Browns. They released him of his contract. He went to Atlanta. They had a prolific offense. They went to the Super Bowl. He left there, and he went to the San Francisco 49ers. Now, we're going to paint this whole picture to show you why everything has to be stripped down to the studs. This is a full gut. Y'all ever watch those home shows where, you know, they come in and they think they got a deal and they're going to renovate the home and it's going to be perfect, and they realize, man, we got to change the pipes. We got to change the electrical out. We got to gut this house. The Browns need to gut the entire thing. Marie, you see that? They were calling him better than him early on. So Cleveland media was saying this. Let's get to the next article. John Lynch. This is what they said about John Lynch when they hired John Lynch for the San Francisco 49ers. John Lynch's new job as 49ers GM is a head scratcher to many. Nobody believed in John Lynch when he was hired in San Francisco. Would you take the San Francisco 49ers roster and their draft classes over what Andrew Berry has done since he's been here? These are just questions. I'm just here to ask the questions. Is that how he became an offensive guru? He is not in his stratosphere. Kevin Stefanski became an offensive guru because he was an upstart offensive coordinator who called plays for 1.5 years. He called plays for 1.5 years, and they crowned him an offensive guru. 1.5 years in Minnesota where the top receiver won it out. Who watched the game last night? Did y'all see what Stephon Diggs did? Did y'all see Stephon Diggs catch all those passes away from his body with his hands? That's a receiver that Kevin Stefanski couldn't do nothing with. What's up, Raul? Marty Ball, prevent defense. Facts. Hey, no, what's worse is, remember we had Greg Williams, and Greg Williams used to put the safeties 30 yards from the line of scrimmage because he was trying to cut down on big plays? Hey, it gets ugly. It gets ugly real quick, y'all. Real quick. The way you determine if the Cleveland Browns are a properly ran organization, you look at an organization who wasn't in good circumstances, what they've done in the same time that the Browns have done what they've done in the 6 years. As soon as you do that, you get the answers to the test. All the questions that I showed you on that first video, we are knocking down all those questions. We're knocking them all down. Toe tapping. Let's go. Now, so this is a GM that wasn't proven. I bet you they would take him now. Would you take Andrew Berry over John Lynch? Nobody would. Nobody in the NFL. Dog still got some juice. Would you take Kyle Shanahan over Kevin Stefanski? Everybody would. Diggs. Okay, got you. Yeah, Diggs still got some juice. You saw him catching those passes. Led them to a victory over previously undefeated Buffalo. Now, the 49ers record, since they've taken over, they put that new regime in place. Stephon Diggs was on a mission to show up his old team. Good job. Facts, he was. He was on a mission. He didn't even hide it. After the game, they said, was this revenge? Did you really want this? He said, yes, 100%. He didn't sugarcoat it. Yep, I wanted to beat them. And his team rallied around him, and they gave him opportunities, and they went out there and beat him. 49ers, since 2017, when they hired Shanahan, when they hired John Lynch, they are 74-63. They went to a couple Super Bowls. They went to a couple NFC Championship games. Would you take their success over Cleveland's? Facts. Peppers was playing safety from the 2 Mile Water crib. He was. It was insane. I never seen nothing like it. The media love Kevin Stefanski. Take me to stand on business. So y'all know that if you give me enough time, I'll find out the reasons why. As we breaking this down, I'm gonna drop a nugget on y'all. So if you've been with me since the summer, I dropped the nugget that Andrew Berry's twin brother also works in the Philadelphia Eagles front office. And people didn't know that because I kept saying, hey, it's a relationship there, and people didn't know what I was getting at. So it's another relationship. Oh, they need to stand on business. I agree. The media is not standing on business, Ms. Brown. And I got the answers why. Something happened last week. Facts. It looked like Ray Farmer was texting the plays. They were so bad. Something happened last week. They snuck this past a lot of people. When they were talking about Shedeur Sanders and him doing the miming and all that stuff. Let me find it for y'all while I got this up. Let me find it. Ms. Brown, you were on to something. There is a reason why they do not talk about Kevin Stefanski the way they talk about these other coaches. It happened right in front of everybody's face, and nobody caught it. Nobody caught why they don't talk about Kevin Stefanski in a crazy way. Let me find it for you all. Ms. Brown, thank you for that. Because this was a point I wanted to bring up, and I forgot to get the video for it. So let me find this. Let me find it. It was actually the person who said this was Stephen A. Smith. It was Stephen A. Smith Stephen A. Smith said it. And I was like, wait, nobody heard this. Let me find it real quick.
Cleveland has benched Joe Flacco after 4 games, now turning to rookie Dillon Gabriel on the road in London against the Vikings. Flacco now becomes QB2. Shedeur Sanders will remain 3rd on the depth chart. And when asked about the changes,
I caught G. Bush making the comments. Even nationally, they say he's a great coach. Facts. It's a reason to that. I always got the answers for y'all. And it's so funny. I got so many answers. Sometimes I forget my answers until I get somebody who comment a thing. It sparks my mind. I'm like, hey, that's something I wanted to let y'all know. So let me find it here for y'all.
Shedeur had a particular way of addressing the situation.
It's going to be Stephen A. Smith. Let me find a spot where Stephen A. Smith is going to be talking.
So obviously, he addressed the question. Action.
I'm not going to overreact to it. I'm just going to say that he has to know that other people are going to look at him and consider that immature. I don't consider him immature. I think that he can play. I think that he's a leader. I think that a lot is prejudged when it comes to him. I think it's unfair. I can't wait to see him get his chance on the football field or whatever. I just think that at times, I wish people see ahead of time how they're going to judge you and how you should be. They shouldn't judge him. It's no big deal because every word he says, we micromanage, we dissect, and folks judge him accordingly. And I think that was his way of saying, you know what, if you don't hear anything that I have to say, okay, that's cool. And it's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. But folks are going to make it out to a big deal. I assure you there's going to be some people out there, pointing and using that to say there was immaturity there. I don't believe him to be that kind of a person, an immature person. I think he's a young man. I think he's highly intelligent.
I got to find it. ESPN will take down something that proves a good point or exposes something. So, did you notice Zach Jackson switch up? He has no energy for Shedeur now. G. Bush said they want access, so they go along to get along. Facts. Yeah. The way he was speaking, I did notice that. I kind of mentioned it last week where he was on the show with Adam the Bull, and the way he talked about Shedeur is totally different now. With no reason to talk about him totally different. So, hey, they want to make sure their media access card still scans when they go to the facilities and so they can ask questions. So, hey, that's why I don't want to be too close. I don't want to be right there because being right there, you change. You're not authentic anymore. I can't find it, but this is the point. And Ms. Brown sparked this thought for me. Stephen A. Smith said, yeah, I was just talking to Kevin Stefanski's dad. And I was like, who you talk to? I can't find it on ESPN, but it was in this segment when they were speaking on Shedeur, and he said, yeah, I was talking to Kevin Stefanski's dad. And we just, we hung out, and I was like, who is Kevin Stefanski's dad? Well, Kevin Stefanski's father is an NBA executive, and he's worked 4 teams. And he just recently got hired by the Phoenix Suns to work in their front office. And he's worked for the Detroit Pistons. And then you start putting together. You say, how could Kevin Stefanski be this bad and nobody talk about him bad nationally? Y'all notice that? Nobody says anything bad about Kevin Stefanski. Why do you think that is? Did y'all know that his father was an NBA executive? Did y'all know that? Because I had to look it up. Actually, let me show y'all the article. There you go. Ed Stefanski. I had to look it up because I just knew that when it came to it, they never spoke on Kevin Stefanski a certain way. I didn't know why they didn't speak on him a certain way, but I was like, they never say anything bad about him. So let's take you. A real Nepo baby. Coach has to go. All right, so I'm just going to show y'all. Man, I can't stand when they make you check out the cookies. But here it is. I have it right here for y'all. I got the article. We're going to pull it up. Shout out to Miss Brown for sparking this thought. I didn't until recently said he had smoked for Allen Iverson back in the day. The darkness is coming to light, y'all. It's coming to light. Let me get this up. All right, so it's right here. There you go. You caught that too. Stephen A was talking about how he loved his father. Yeah, you're right. I remember them saying that. Now that's a real Nepo baby. These are facts. These are facts. All right, so this is from Arizona Sports. Suns hire Ed Stefanski, father of Cleveland Browns coach, as front office advisor. So, first off, everybody didn't know this, and this came out when Stephen A was the one who exposed this. Now, this kind of tells you why it doesn't matter how bad it gets for Kevin Stefanski. People never say anything bad about him, and they always bring up two-time coach of the year. They never bring up his record. As soon as they want to talk bad about a coach, they bring up his win-loss record. When is the last time you heard national or local media bring up Kevin Stefanski's win-loss record? Don't worry, I'll wait. They don't do it. Raul, the problem is Mary Kay never released the QB hand size stats for the first time since 99. Man, get out of here with that. The tiny hands QBs. If they would have did that, then they wouldn't have took Kenny Pickett. They would have took Kenny. Kenny wouldn't have made it. He would not have made it. I think once they do, he's out the door. Yeah. Excellent quality of screen variety TV I see. I think you can connect your TV. Ooh, what you got going on? I don't know what that is. Man, we're going to hide that. I heard it recently. Yeah, I heard it recently too. So you're starting to connect the dots and put some of these things together. Great point by Ms. Brown by highlighting that for me. All right, let's get back to breaking this thing down. Next article we have. This is Draft Wire. So among the list of things I told y'all they're going to say to you, one of the things I said they're going to say is the Deshaun Watson trade. The Deshaun Watson trade is the problem. We gave him 3 first-round draft picks, all the draft capital. That's why the team isn't good. That's why the Browns, they're stuck in this rut. That's why you got to keep these guys. The Deshaun Watson deal really is the reason. That ain't going to fly over here. That ain't going to fly over here. You want to know why? Do y'all recall the trade that the 49ers made to move up to get Trey Lance? Do y'all remember that trade? Do y'all know what they gave up? The Trey Lance trade, breaking down every pick and outcome from the draft deal. Let's get to it. All right. This is what the 49ers gave up. This is what they gave up. The 49ers received the number 3 pick in the 2021 NFL draft. They gave up a first rounder in 2021. They gave up a first rounder in 2022. They gave up a third rounder in 2022. They gave up an additional first rounder in 2023. That is 3 first round draft picks they gave up for Trey Lance. 3 of them, y'all. Zedric, you see it. That trade didn't cripple the 49ers. Good catch. You know why that trade didn't cripple the 49ers? Because the 49ers are decisive. They're decisive. They realize right away, wait, he's not good. We're going to draft another quarterback at the end of the draft that we see has some promise. Y'all know who that quarterback was? None other than Brock Purdy. So, all the excuses, all of the reasons they're giving you to say this is why the Browns are failing, it's not going to work. The San Francisco 49ers have mirrored what the Cleveland Browns have done. They found their way out of it. The Browns cannot find their way out of a cardboard box. That is the difference. Don't let them keep selling y'all on this. I think the only way Kevin will get fired if Miles goes to the owner and says, we have the pieces, but we don't have the coach. I agree with that. I think that's the only way he gets fired during season. I think Kevin Stefanski is done after the year. Beast, if you're still there, Beast, do you remember I said, I'm going to speculate because you asked me a question and it sparked something. And you asked me a question and I said, I'm going to speculate. Further down the line, I think they both will be gone. I think they're going to clean house. And then that's when I started talking about Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry are separating themselves. They're not on the same page. Have to be willing to risk it sometimes. I agree. No risk, no reward. It's a reason why people say that. It's a reason. So, another thing that I showed y'all in the video, he said nobody could be successful with the Browns team. Nobody could be successful with the players they're trotting out there. Nobody could. No, because I think Jimmy Haslam really likes Kevin. I think he likes Kevin, but I think Jimmy Haslam will succumb to the fan pressure, the local media turning on them. Once that happens, Jimmy Haslam is not going to stay with Kevin Stefanski. It's not going to be good. He said they have to win more games than they did last year. Those are Jimmy's words out of his own mouth. We have to win more games than last year. The Browns are on pace to not win more games than last year. If the Browns go 3-14 again, Jimmy will not bring him back, whether he like him or not. He liked Deshaun Watson. You don't see Deshaun Watson out there playing. He was at Deshaun Watson's wedding. You don't see Deshaun Watson. They didn't activate Deshaun Watson in the practice window. He liked Deshaun Watson. Kevin needs to call Freddie and see if he have any Pittsburgh started T-shirts left. Oh man, that was a disaster. Freddie Kitchens was way in over his head. So let's look at the 49ers who just beat the Rams, who are two playoff quality teams, and let's see what they did. I think play calling is going to get turned over to Tommy Rees before they fire anyone. I think if they're smart, they will do that. Hopefully they turn over to Tommy Rees when Shedeur Sanders is the starting quarterback. That's what I want to see. And also, people are starting to come to that side, and I've been saying that for a couple weeks. He got his job because of his father. He certainly was fast-tracked without a lot of experience. I think Jimmy likes Shedeur. I think Jimmy likes Shedeur too. He was fast-tracked without a lot of experience in play calling. All these other offensive minds spent so much more time before they got to a head coach. Kevin Stefanski got there so quick. He was definitely fast-tracked. Why would you be fast-tracked? Oh, I don't know. Your father is in the right circles. And they say Shedeur is the Nepo baby. Now, when they talk about how good a team is performing, you got to have all these star players. That's the reason why. So they want to eliminate the scheme that Kevin O'Donnell put in place for his team to have success. They want to eliminate that. So what we're going to do is, because they're just going to say they got Justin Jefferson. The Browns could have drafted him. They took Jedrick Wills when Justin Jefferson went 12 picks after him. But, hey, that's neither here nor there. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to take it to another team who has basically everybody injured. Let's talk about injuries. We back, Harris. Let's look at who the 49ers had out before they went and beat the Rams. Let's look at it. Another blogger said he should understand the Shedeur because his father in the system. Hey, he's too stubborn. Kevin got the job because it's winning record with the Vikings, because when he got in there, they made the playoffs every year. We're starting to see that Kevin Stefanski only called plays for a year and a half in Minnesota. They gave him a lot of credit for what was happening in Minnesota. You see it did not translate to Cleveland. So that might be the reason why he got the job, but we see that we could have done better. I'll say that. Let's look at who they had out versus the Rams. All right, so just these are the people that's out. D Lyman is out. Juwan Jennings is out. Their third and fourth receiver, Ricky Purcell is out. Brock Purdy's out. Jordan Watkins out. CJ West, D-line, questionable. Let's look at who they have on injured reserve. Where's the injured reserve at? Nick Bosa on injured reserve. Brandon Ayuk is out. Starting tackle, injured reserve. Guard, injured reserve. So they got guys on injured reserve too. A lot of guys are out. Now, let's ask this question. The team that the San Francisco 49ers fielded versus the LA Rams on Thursday night, would you take that offense over the Cleveland Browns offense? Just the teams, not the coaches, none of that, just the teams. Mac Jones at quarterback. Mac Jones, Dillon Gabriel. Running back, Christian McCaffrey, Quinshon Judkins. Backup running backs. Robinson, who they traded for from the Commanders, Dylan Sampson, Jerome Ford. So right there, you would probably take some 49ers. When you get to offensive line, their offensive line is injured. Mac Jones was not under pressure. You go to receiver. Would you take Jerry Jeudy? Or would you take Kendrick Bourne? Would you take Isaiah Bond? Or whoever they had a receiver? So it gets more even. And in a lot of places, the Browns have better offensive talent that they were putting out there. The problem is Kevin Stefanski is not a creator. He does not attack pressure points for the defense. And his offense looks the same. It's something that I learned when I was watching that game. When I was watching LA and when I was watching the 49ers, you know how Kevin Stefanski and these old school offensive coordinators, when they call motion with about 10 seconds left in the play clock. And when they call that motion, they're trying to see a zone or man, but defenses recognize that. So defenses don't move until at the snap of the ball. So what the 49ers and the Rams did was they call motion as they're snapping the ball. So the defense has to show that picture right away. So if you got to run across the field to chase a guy, you know it's man. If you going in the zone and nobody goes with him at the snap of the ball, you paint the picture for your quarterback. That is how you give your quarterback the answers to the test. That's how you do it. Remember a couple weeks ago I said Kevin Stefanski don't give him the answers? He's not giving them the answers. The way Shedeur handles pressure is what got me nervous about putting him in there because our offensive line is not good enough. Our tackles are who they are. You have to scheme up a system to help out your tackles. Myles Garrett was talking about what the Minnesota Vikings did. He said they chipped on both sides. They helped both tackles. They ran misdirection to get the defense second guessing. It's things you can do to change up how you protect your tackles. Shedeur handles pressures pretty fine. Minnesota was pretty much missing their entire line. That is correct, Raul. But you happy feet DG to get it done under pressure. Get out of here. No, go watch the game. He handled pressure in that second preseason game he played. It was bad. Those negative 41 yards against the Rams was breathtaking. Look at the first preseason. I will say this. This is what I'll say. To balance out the conversation y'all are having in the chat. When it comes to the preseason, this is the thing that the Rams did. You got to look at what the defense is taking away and if they're giving you answers to beat what the defense is doing. The Rams ran cover one. That's when I started to notice the Browns couldn't beat cover one. Kevin Stefanski did not run any routes that were attacking cover one. And when he finally got to those routes, it was out because the offensive line was showing that they don't belong in the NFL. Fun fact, none of them are in the NFL. So going back to the preseason, it doesn't matter. The preseason happened. Shedeur had a great game. He had a terrible game. It doesn't matter. We're not going back to what Dillon Gabriel did in the preseason. We're looking at what he did in the regular season. The regular season is here. This matters. This goes on your stat sheet for the next year. So that preseason stuff is cool if you want to go back to that. But what you got to do is look at what's happening right now. Kevin Stefanski still can't beat cover one. Kevin Stefanski still can't scheme guys open. Puka Nacua is slower than the Browns wide receivers, and they managed to get him all these targets, and they managed to get him open. That is scheme. That is scheme. That's what you need. The scheme is the thing that is missing when you're looking at the Cleveland Browns. He didn't trust the O-line. The only reason he didn't drift back is to make a play. He was trying to make a play. That's why I say, like, if you want to have a real conversation about what didn't work there, they were set up to fail because the scheme, they never were ahead of the defensive scheme. So that's the defense is going to win those reps. That's why I say set up to fail. So you can go back to the preseason, but that don't matter because Joe Flacco didn't have the answers versus cover one. Dillon Gabriel didn't have the answers versus cover one. The Browns have seen the most cover one out of anybody in NFL. Cover one is we take away the middle of the field, the easy throws. We make you throw outside the numbers. We're going to have a safety in the middle. We're either going to blitz a linebacker or have a linebacker drop in the middle, and we're going to run man across the board. Kevin Stefanski does not have the offense or the system to defeat those plays. That's why people are doing it. It's about schemes. What people want is when they look at the Browns, they say, our players aren't good. Well, how are these teams who have players who aren't good getting something out of their team? How are they doing it? Minnesota's whole offensive line was hurt. How did they get something out of their offensive line? How did they get 3 70-plus yard drives yesterday when we got the best defensive line? Your scheme neutralizes the other team's strengths. Kevin Stefanski can't do that. He can't do it. That's why his offense doesn't work. His offense is broken. Kevin doesn't game against the team he is playing. He just runs his offense, and that's the biggest issue. Yes, you are correct, Jeffrey. Kevin is stubborn. I'm a stubborn person. I can see a stubborn person from a mile away. I've got more flexible when it comes to how I do things in life because you have to be flexible. Being stubborn is something that will hold you back. It will hold you back. Can't be stubborn. I'll give you another example because it's one thing for me to just tell you I'm stubborn. I'll show you how I'm stubborn, and I'll show you how I work to adjust it. So when I first got into streaming, I will only stream in vertical. And I was streaming vertical because I would think of, man, when I make my shorts, when I make my clips, I want to get them out. I just want it to be a seamless transition. The problem is YouTube doesn't push vertical the same way it pushed horizontal. So I was stuck in a conundrum. I wasn't getting the proper views that I should be getting when I had the same views that I have now. I had to change to horizontal, but make it in a way where I still could use my clips. That's why my screen is laid out this way. If you notice, if you look at my clips on YouTube, my shorts, or if you look at anything I put out on TikTok, my stuff looks way more seamless when you're looking at it than when you look at other people. It was because I had to kick me being stubborn for doing it a certain way to adapt to what I needed to do to get better. And that's what I did. That's what Kevin Stefanski is not doing. Kevin Stefanski putting kid gloves on everybody and not allowing anybody to adapt and adjust to what's happening in real time is an issue. That's his stubbornness. So that's how you look across the board on what's happening and why it's going bad. The middle of the field was a big part of Kevin's offense. Now we don't use it at all. The reason why they can't use the middle of the field is because they're running cover one. That's why I'm saying, that's why I was highlighting the cover one. Cover one takes away the middle of the field. Shout out to you, Harris. No problem. We in this. Cover one takes away the middle of the field. It takes it away. If you run cover one robber, one safety is going deep in the middle, the other safety is covering the underneath in the middle. If you want regular cover one, you got a linebacker who is dropping into the middle of the field and they're running man and they're giving you outside leverage. So they're trying to force you to throw outside the numbers. So if you like to throw in the middle of the field, they're going to run cover one to eliminate that. So they're eliminating what you like to do. The other side of it is you got to force your hand on what you want to do. That's what has to happen. That's why it's not working. Football is about it's about trade-offs. It's no 100% answer on offense or defense. It's about trade-offs. So As you change your formation, you're trading something off. You put more tight ends, you're losing speed. You gain a blocking advantage. You put more speed, you're losing a blocking advantage. So that's how football works. I don't know, Jeffrey. I don't know how you can say you don't see Shedeur as a franchise guy. He hasn't taken a snap yet. If you got, you got to see it. A franchise quarterback has to win an intermediate game. Kevin Stefanski didn't even allow Dillon Gabriel to get to the intermediate game. So that's a lack of trust, a lack of game plan. But you see, it's about trade-offs. Like I was saying, they're taking away the middle of the field and saying, you got to beat me another way. Kevin Stefanski's being stubborn, saying, I won't change. I'm just going to keep doing what I do, and it's not working. That's where it is. Yeah, I don't know how you can say he's not franchise when if you look at the last 2 years, the NFL has got every franchise guy wrong. If you let's do this. Let's play a game. Let's look at the last 5 quarterbacks who were supposed to be can't miss prospects. Let's start at Joe Burrow. Let's say Joe Burrow can't miss prospect. Can't miss is going to be when a team has that number 1 overall pick, there's nothing you can offer them for them to move out of it. First is going to be Joe Burrow. After Joe Burrow, we got the Trevor Lawrences. He was supposed to be franchised. He's not franchised. He get paid like one. Caleb Williams, the jury's still out. It's early. Who else is franchised? Cam Ward. Everybody said Cam Ward was leaps and bounds ahead of Shedeur. Is not showing up yet, and he's taking every rep. They built an offense around him. It's not showing up yet. People are going to blame the coaches. Coaches have something to do with it. So what I'll say is it's not going to be just a savior who's going to come through the door and just look like this is the franchise. Franchises that have a franchise quarterback, they drafted a guy, most likely wasn't number 1 overall, and they end up being the best because they saw traits in him. Not you just look like a franchise quarterback. So you look who are the top quarterbacks? Look at the top quarterbacks this year. Anybody would take the top 4. We don't even got to name them. Everybody know who the top 4 is, minus Joe Burrow because he's injured. But you look at the Josh Allen. Josh Allen wasn't the first quarterback taken. Lamar Jackson wasn't the first quarterback taken. Patrick Mahomes wasn't the first quarterback taken. Justin Herbert wasn't the first quarterback taken. Look at all the top teams that's performing. None of these guys were just walk through the door, that's the top guy. Caleb Williams needs that around the league at the bottom for a little bit. I'm guessing you meant like Baker, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith. Baker, Baker was number 1. Baker, this is the thing. Let's look at that draft class. Would you take Baker Mayfield over Josh Allen today? Would you take Baker Mayfield over, was Lamar at the end of that draft? 2018? I think Lamar was at the end of that draft too. Would you take Baker Mayfield over either of those two? I wouldn't. Baker Mayfield would be the 3rd quarterback I would take out that draft. He would not be the first. Geno Smith. Anybody want Geno Smith? Have y'all watched Geno Smith? Do y'all know who leads the league in turnovers? Geno Smith? The Raiders are really wondering why they didn't draft a quarterback to really come in there and compete. Geno Smith is done. He's cooked. He cooked. That's what it is. He cooked. Look at Geno Smith. He looks very bad. Sam Darnold looks better. I can't get with the painting the fingernail thing. Do what he do, but I can't get with it. Zedric, I agree. You can't force it. You can't just force your way into making somebody a number 1 quarterback. Daniel Jones in Indiana. Oh, you're talking about his 8 interceptions. Yeah, he leads it. Harris, you see it. Geno Smith is not looking good. So some of these retreads, they look all right, but that's not the answer. Facts. Barbecue chicken. The defense is. Did you see his second interception yesterday? The defense was running into each other trying to get to his interception, and the wide receiver wasn't even in the play. Baker is balling out now. He's in a better situation. The Raiders got what they deserve. Geno is done. That's a fact, Marie. That's a fact. So you can't force it. You have to be willing to find the traits that make the most sense to you and work around those traits. Kevin Stefanski is not the guy who can work around traits. What happens if you get so let's play a game. Hey, we got to make this interactive. Let's play another game. So let's look at the teams who wanted to take Shador. The Philadelphia Eagles, their offense is broken. You might be able to plug somebody away from them. If I was looking at a new GM, I might pull somebody from the Philadelphia Eagles. Who are they looking at? They want a Shador. Let's look at the Baltimore Ravens. Harbaugh is truly on the hot seat. You might say, hey, let's look at it's not, I don't think it's Ozzie Newsome anymore. They got another GM, but you might want to plug somebody who's in that front office. They want a Shador. So what if they get somebody from a stand-up organization who wanted Shador, and they say, you know what, this team has too many holes. We can't just go take a quarterback with no offensive line. The Browns only have one offensive lineman in the contract for next year. One. They gotta upgrade the offensive line. They need receivers. Can you really, if they don't get the number one overall pick, or it's not the guy who they think is going to be there, is not there, Lenore Sellers go back to school, he don't come out. Then what you going to do? And everybody wanted Lenore Sellers. You got to still build out your team. You can't just take the guy number one and force it. So, I'm just saying. All I'm saying is they got to be creative to find their quarterback. It doesn't have to be draft necessarily. I'm going to disagree with you there, Jeffrey, because if you look at hitting on one of these retreads, what happens when you get the retread that turns into Geno Smith? So remember, these retreads cost money. Geno Smith ain't cheap. Baker not cheap. Sam Darnold not cheap. What happens if you get the retread that turns into Geno Smith? He doesn't turn into what Baker is doing or what Sam Darnold's doing, and you just pay more for the retread when you could have got you could have drafted somebody and they will be cheaper for your team. That puts you in a conundrum. The way you build out your team is through the draft. It is the cheapest way to upgrade your team. Once you try to hit free agency to build out your team, you're stuck in limbo. If it doesn't work, it hurts you more. I don't know what has happened to Geno. I saw Damon Lillard asking for Shador yesterday. Ballers, no ballers, facts. I saw that too. He said, hey, man, we just got to trade for Shador. So the retread route is not the way to go. The retread route is not the way to go. The way you're going to be able to sell it to another GM and say, hey, we got 2 first-round picks. We got a bunch of holes on this offense. We got to fix the offense. If you use multiple resources for a quarterback, you're going to be screwed. It's going to take you longer. So Cleveland fans always love the backup. That's true. Just because it's a safer play. It's playing it safe. At some point, you got to take the risk. Got to hit big on the value picks. That's a fact. It's a fact. So that's the issue that they're running into. Let me see if I got one more article to just drive home this last point. The best franchises build their teams. That's a fact. Now, this one is not even fair. So when I said there are other teams that have done more in less time than Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, let's look at one that's basically cheating. Let's look at the good old Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions, since Dan Campbell took over, are 43-29-1. The Detroit Lions have been stacking great players through the draft. One of the best offensive tackles, one of the best defensive ends. They got a great combination of running backs. One of them they drafted. They got Jameis Williams at receiver. The difference is cost. Cost is the difference. Cost. Let's do this real quick. Let's do it. Geno Smith. Let's go. The difference is cost, and they've made other financial mistakes, and they've kicked the can with pushing contracts down the road, and that's where they're messed up. So cost is an issue. Let's look at it. Geno Smith is on a 2-year contract extension with the Las Vegas Raiders worth up to $85.5 million, which includes $66.5 million. $66.5 million guaranteed. But retreads are usually cheap because they didn't hit. If you catch them on the bounce, you get the rebound. If you're the first one to get them, they're cheap. Once they show anything, they're not cheap anymore. Geno Smith wasn't cheap. When Seattle got him to sit on the bench behind Russell Wilson, he was cheap. Now he's not cheap. Baker Mayfield. If you caught Baker Mayfield first, he was cheap. If you get them off the bounce, they're not cheap. Baker Mayfield, $100 million. They traded away Matthew Stafford, so they took a risk. Baker Mayfield is not cheap. Let's look at Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was cheap when he went to – Sam Darnold was cheap for the 49ers, and he was cheap for the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold is not cheap for the Seattle. 3-year, $100 million, $55 million guaranteed. You got to catch them off the bounce for it to be cheap. When they hit the ground, you got a 5-second rule and pick them up. If you don't get them when they're 5-second rule and pick them up, they're not cheap no more. Caleb Williams not going to be cheap. He's only in year 2. So Caleb Williams being a retread, that would be 3 years from now. Bryce Young, I don't want Bryce Young. I'll say that first. We ain't even going to get deep into it. Bryce Young is going to be cheap in, what is this, year 3 for Bryce Young? He'll be cheap in 2 years. How does that help you in 2026? Geno Smith was making $6 million the first 2 years after he got paid. I said that. Geno Smith was, you got to catch him off the bounce for him to be cheap. You got to catch them with the first time they get discarded from a team. Sam Darnold was cheap for a couple teams. Bryce is not going to be cheap for 2 years, though. What retread, let me ask you this question. What retread are the Browns going to be able to get after this year for next year that's going to be cheap? That's the question. Because we can play the hypothetical game. That's the question. What quarterback can the Browns get after this season that's coming? They're going to catch off the bounce 5-second rule that's going to be cheap for next year. Remember, we're not thinking 5-6 years down the line. We're talking about next season. What retread is going to be cheap? What retread do you like? Daniel Jones not going to be cheap. You got to catch them off the bounce for them to be cheap. Daniel Jones was cheap when he signed with Minnesota. He was cheap when he just signed with the Colts. You got to catch them off the bounce. Geno Smith sat behind Russ for a couple years. That's when he was cheap. You got to catch him off the bounce. If you're looking at a retread that's not even going to be available for 2 years, that don't help the Browns next year. So these are the real questions. We can play the hypothetical game, but then at some point we got to ask the real question. If you are a new front office coming in, what retread quarterback are you attaching your legacy to? When you're a general manager and you go after a quarterback, your legacy is attached to him. If a coach signs off on it, the coach is attached to him. What retread are you looking at? Maybe you're looking at Anthony Richardson? Maybe? Who else are you looking at? I hear you, Jeffrey, but all we did was just ran in a circle to get back to the same point. All we did was ran in a circle to end up in the same spot. The same spot we end up in is the hope strategy. Hope is not a strategy. Hope is for children. You give children hope that they could be better and do and reach their dreams in the future. Hope is not a strategy for business. Hope is not a strategy in anything competitive. Hope is not a strategy. Everybody hopes they can find a cheap quarterback that somehow a team missed on that they can have for 2 years for $10 million. You think the Browns the only team that's thinking that? Who needs quarterbacks going into next year? The Raiders, the Saints, the Jets. That's 3. The Browns, possibly Carolina. That's 5. So it's one thing if this was the year where everybody had a solidified quarterback and only the Browns needed a quarterback and we had we had the pick of the litter of the best one and we went and got him. That'd be one thing. Too many teams need a quarterback. I gotta disagree with you. I seen Bryce Young up close. The Carolina Panthers are the regular game that plays on my Fox station every week. Bryce Young, they're putting so much into this offense. It's not even funny. Look at their depth chart at wide receiver. Look at their depth chart at running back. Their starting running back is injured. Hubbard. They put another running back in there that did pretty solid yesterday. Bryce is they are putting the weapons around him. Look at their wide receiver depth chart. They drafted a wide receiver top 10 this year. They took wide receiver either the end of the first or early second last year. So Bryce Young has the same problem Dillon Gabriel has. They can't see the entire field from the pocket. That's the problem. When people want to make it and act like it's different reasons why people don't like the Bryce Youngs or the Dillon Gabriels, no, they can't see the whole field from the pocket. Bryce Young is a great guy. He seems to be a good leader. He does things that you want your quarterback doing. He can't see the entire field. Everything he does has to be, he has to anticipate everything. And it's just not there. So, that ain't the answers. Other than Tate McMillan, though, the receivers suck. How do you get 6 receptions for -2 yards? They got Jimmy Horn there. They got Xavier Legarrette. So they're putting money into it, and they got speed receivers. If you see, this is what we could do. You can question the system that they run. They don't run a good system to take advantage of the speed in their receivers. Now, if you question the system, I will be with you. Because Jimmy Horn is beating guys one-on-one a lot. They're not getting him the ball. Kenny Pickett was their retread. Look at the retreads that they had to pick of the litter on retreads this year, and they picked Kenny Pickett. They could have got Daniel Jones. He didn't get that much money. So the retread thing won't work. Beast, I did say that. The perfect timing thing, this is how I feel about it. I saw everybody just disregard it and say, oh, it wasn't a shot at Shedeur. One time, I'll give you a pass with the competitors and entertainers thing. I'll give you a pass on that one time. The second time you do it, this is a trend, and you know exactly what you're doing. And I remember it was I think it was a Key and Peele skit where basically it is you're doing something that's so obvious, but you have plausible deniability, so people don't believe it. So that's what I think Dillon Gabriel is doing. Because even everything he said before and after the perfect timing thing, none of it made sense. It was not cohesive. It wasn't a cohesive thought. When people just drop little things like that out, this is the second time he don't get a pass from me. He don't get a pass from me. And it's the Browns' fault. The Browns created the competition between them, and the Browns have done this in the past. They've created a competitive environment between quarterbacks, and the quarterbacks have a disdain for each other. It happened with Johnny Manziel and Brian Hoyer. It happened with Derek Anderson, and I can't think of the quarterback when we had Derek Anderson. I think was it Johnny? But they've done this multiple times. Yeah, the fire. It made no sense. He was talking about the fire station, and yeah, my buddy, he sent me this message, and it was about a fire station. The doors are being open, and you have to be ready because they're always open. And when you get your opportunity, he was all over the place. I saw it. I took it. I was like, that's a shot. And then he said, after he said all that mumbo jumbo, if you wait for the perfect time, you'll be waiting your whole life. What? It was like he wasn't even speaking in the right. It wasn't like he was speaking English. It was like, when a person speaks English as their second language, that's how those words went together. Honestly, who will be great in this front office right now? Russell Wilson, because he doesn't throw in the middle of the field. Russell Wilson is cooked. He's cooked. Russell Wilson still can't read a defense. I don't want Russell Wilson. He cannot read a defense. I don't want a retread. A retread, this year showed you, if you're going to get retread and they're going to play like a rookie, you might as well have a rookie who costs you way less. Remember I said Dillon Gabriel couldn't be worse than Flacco? Dillon Gabriel wasn't worse than Joe Flacco because he didn't turn the ball over. Everyone gave him a pass. I've had so many arguments with people about this. It made no sense. I agree. Why is he even thinking about Shedeur Ford? That's the second time he's made no sense to me. I agree. The entertainers and competitors thing made no sense. This made no sense. And this is what happens. People say you're a conspiracy theorist until you're proven right. And when the Browns had previous quarterback competitions and there was disdain growing and brewing in between the two quarterbacks, everybody called everybody crazy for identifying that you were seeing it happen in front of you. And then years later, those quarterbacks said, no, we didn't like each other. We was taking shots at each other the whole time. I've seen this too many times in Cleveland to look past it. And also, it never makes sense. It's never coherent. It's never a coherent thought. And the thing is, people can say, oh, you don't understand, or that's usually what they do. They try to box you in and say, you just don't understand what he's trying to say. I just basically recited 80% of what he said. It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense when he said it then. The competitors versus entertainers thing, it didn't make sense when he said it then. And one thing that they are eliminating that happened, it got so bad with the competitors and entertainers thing that Dillon Gabriel approached Shedeur to talk to him about it. If I say something and it don't mean no harm, why would I be going to somebody to clarify and apologize? It happened with Johnny Manziel and Brian Hoyer. Facts, Jeffrey, you see it. It's happened too many times. They create the issue and then it's tension. They're doing this. The Browns have mishandled this quarterback situation the entire time. That's why they got to go. Also, see, I tell y'all more and more about me. One of the things that I always say is one of my strengths is my recall. I can just recall back to a situation. Do y'all know what else? Y'all know what else happened? Stephen A. Smith got on ESPN and said, we're not going to forget that Dillon Gabriel was taking shots at the media. And right away, the Browns put out Joe Flacco as the starter. Look it up. I was talking about it when it happened. I said the Browns put that out because Kevin Stefanski did a press conference. He was on Zoom. He said, I'm going to talk to the guys. It was a Monday morning press conference. He was on Zoom. He said, I got to talk to the guys. We're going to wait to see how it goes. He did his press conference. First Take opened up the show talking about Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel. And Stephen A. was talking about how he was going to go in on Dillon Gabriel. And then the Browns did not wait. Joe Flacco's the starter. Look it up. That's all you got to do. Look it up. Even though Jimmy Haslam said, do you think you'll make this call to put Deshaun Watson back out there? Nope. I don't think they will put Deshaun Watson back out there. They had a window where they could have activated him so he could start practicing. They did not activate him. So I don't think he's going back out there. Question that I want you to deep dive into about the Browns. Harris, what's the question? See the report yesterday before the game. They said Shedeur played this year before Dillon Gabriel played. Did that immediately. Zedric, you caught that. Yeah, I did. That was actually the first topic I talk about today, Jeffrey. I spoke on how this is the first time the Cleveland Browns have put out anything positive regarding Shedeur Sanders. This is the first time they defended him for all the backlash he's received. And also I saw how Rex Ryan was backpedaling like Coach Prime in his prime on the 49ers or the Cowboys with his take on Shedeur Sanders. So, yeah, I seen it. See, I know that a lot of people, when people talk about what people do when they say, oh, throw away the podcast mics and all this stuff, they just assume that people don't do research. They just assume that people just get up here, they just click on something and they start speaking. But if you notice, and I'm a confident person, so I rarely have to toot my own horn, but if you notice, look at how I finished the topics I wanted to go over, and I just tackle every single situation y'all put out here. Every single one. Because I do the work. I put in the work. I put in the work to be prepared to answer questions that's going to come up later on or whenever they're asked. What is the root cause of failing QBs for the Browns? I'm 27. I've never seen a successful Browns quarterback. The Browns have ran into a lot of situations with management. So Jimmy Haslam was very aggressive with having his hands in the cookie jar very early on when he was running it. So they would hire a coach, fire a coach. He would want this quarterback. He wanted Johnny Manziel because a homeless man told him to take Johnny Manziel. So he had his hands in the cookie jar making decisions. And that is the issue. They go through too many coaches. They go through too many quarterbacks. They change up. So when you go from this coach to this GM, this coach to this GM, it's just like Jeffrey was alluding to earlier. Another GM and coach get here and they say, I don't want that quarterback. I didn't pick him. So my success can't be tied to that quarterback. So you get rid of the quarterback. Then they've tried the retread thing. Harris, look at the list of quarterbacks, the 41 quarterbacks who started for the Cleveland Browns. Not many of them are young quarterbacks. They've beat the retread tryout system into the ground with retreads. So they don't have continuity. They don't have one sound, one voice. What was it? One band, one voice. They don't have that. Too much turnover. Now they're stuck in a place of not wanting to turn over. And since they don't want to turn over, now they're stuck with, we're just going to keep holding on to Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, even though they're not producing. So we had successful quarterbacks, Brian Hoyer and Baker Mayfield. They destroyed the year that Brian Hoyer was balling out. With forcing Johnny Manziel to be played. That was another time where it was an issue with the Browns, like Raul was saying earlier about Ray Farmer texting down plays to the sideline. It was just poorly ran at the time. That's why. Do you think Dillon Gabriel is intimidated by Shedeur? Yes, I do. I don't. I'm watching Dillon Gabriel, and I'm watching to see if he's just confident. And a confident person doesn't really have to look at other people take shots. They just show up who they are. And that's kind of, I'm not fully there to say he's not confident, but I would say so far his confidence is shaky. I'm just old school when it comes to football. I come from where the rookie quarterback sat behind a veteran. Jeffrey, that was true 25 years ago. That's not how the NFL was ran anymore. It's so not true that it's highlighted when the rookie quarterback sits behind a vet. That's how much is flipped on his head. So it was normal for that to happen in the 2000s and prior. Now that's flipped on his head, where if you look at it, that rarely happens. They can't cover the not ready excuse anymore, time running out. Facts. I agree with that. When are they going to take the oven mitts off Jerry Jeudy's hands? They got to do things to get Jerry Jeudy comfortable. They have to scheme up easy targets for him to get the quarterback comfortable and Jerry Jeudy comfortable for him to play better. Yeah, I did kind of answer that, Jeffrey, about the quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield, he sat the first 8 games. Tyrod Taylor, he came in and played. They thought Baker Mayfield wasn't a successful quarterback. You couldn't have a successful Baker. He wasn't our guy. Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry didn't pick Baker. They got rid of Baker. They thought they couldn't win with Baker. They wanted somebody better. They made some mistakes. Johnny Football was fun to watch both off and on the field. Facts. The funny thing was, I used to work on West 6, and I worked at a bar on West 6, and I served Johnny Manziel. In person, he is pretty shy. He was quiet. The NFL is not patient anymore. That's a fact. The NFL is not patient anymore because it's covered around the clock. So before, you just had ESPN or a couple of channels that will cover the NFL. Now the NFL is covered around the clock. And since it's around the clock business, people can poke and pry, and they can expose failure sooner, and they can expose things sooner. Them giving us access to the all 22, seeing what coaches see. We can see more. And since they've exposed you to more, the patience is gone. Because if I'm telling you the defense that the Browns are struggling with, you best believe NFL coaches know exactly what they're doing. So, Jerry Jeudy is inconsistent. He's been like that his whole career. He'll play bad for a stretch, then good. I agree. That's why you just got to make it easy for him. You got to make it easy for him. It's on the coaching staff to put their players in position to have success. That's what you got to do. So if you think he's good at slants or short routes or in short bursts, or having him running across the field, doing drag routes, that's the only thing you run with him. So he has success. I think Jerry's issue is he knows he's not being featured, playing on his confidence, unfortunately. I agree. You need the confidence. You need the confidence to go out there and perform regardless, and your confidence has to be built up by your head coach. Let me ask you all a question. Do you think defenses game plan more for Jerry Jeudy or Justin Jefferson? Who do you think they game plan for more? Jerry Jeudy or Justin Jefferson? They definitely game plan for Justin Jefferson more. He still gets his targets because the coach puts him in situations for him to succeed. That's what they have to do. Should have kept John Dorsey. Raul, hey, I know you be trolling a lot, but you hit a couple things that were good. If you look at if you look at majority of our best players on the roster, John Dorsey brought him here. John Dorsey was way better at identifying and finding talent than Andrew Berry was. John Dorsey, unfortunately, hired Freddie Kitchens, and that was his downfall. He hired a coach that the quarterback wanted because Baker wanted Freddie Kitchens, and Freddie Kitchens wasn't ready to be a head coach. He should have been an OC, and that was his downfall. NFL doesn't like fun. We need more Jameis. We need more stuff that Shador did in his interview that's fun. I agree with you. You are looking at the clash of what's reality of right now and old people. And old people don't want anything different, and young people are different. So you're looking at a clash, and it's hard for them to meet in the middle. If you just look at how they cover what Shador said, a lot of people, they hate it or love it. There's no middle. Stefanski doesn't know how to coach. It's hard to defend him. I think Stefanski should be out. Jerry Jeudy is a slot receiver, not an X receiver. That's why I think we need to trade David for an outside receiver. You want to trade David Njoku? I don't want to trade David Njoku. And then also David Njoku, the way his contract is, he has a big cap hit even if he's not on the team next year. So I want to re-sign David Njoku, and I want to build off having 2 solid tight ends. And I also want to go and get another outside receiver who has the skill set of Isaiah Bond. That's what I want. If you look at it, you can only have one receiver who's not a burner. The rest of your receivers got to have speed, or you got to scheme really well with those receivers. That's where we messed up with Baker. Gave him the keys to the team. He was making calls as a rookie coaching staff. Well, he didn't make the calls until his second year. And you got to remember, in the moment, they were having success because that was a whole kerfuffle. In the moment, when we had Hugh Jackson and Hugh Jackson was let go, remember, we had our offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator kind of fighting for Hugh Jackson's job. Because remember, when we fired Hugh Jackson, we also fired somebody else. And I think we fired our OC, and Freddie Kitchens was not our offensive play caller. He was moved to offensive play caller when we made Greg Williams the interim head coach, and they had such a good run to end the year. That's why they wanted Freddie Kitchens. So it was more so after his first year, but I get what you're saying. I get the gist of what you're saying. Barry Kevin should be sweating more than Farmer. Raul, that's a fact. David is inconsistent, just like Jerry Jeudy. I would agree with you from 2 years ago. I would say David has been pretty consistent in catching passes. He definitely hasn't had the drop rate like Jerry Jeudy. I think Harold Fannin has been good, but his drop rate is too high. So, but I wouldn't see. I think you got to look at, if you're looking to fix an offense, you got to look at the best offenses and look at the weapons that they have. So look at the Detroit. Look at the 49ers. Look at Sean McVay. I mean, even though everybody's taking shots at them, look at the Chiefs offense. You keep getting more and more of the same style of player and using them in different ways. So every offseason, the Chiefs are looking to add another speedy receiver. And that's because it opens up everything underneath. The Chiefs got Travis Kelce, but their other is his name Noah Gray? Their other tight end, they had him for years. So just because you get somebody who's good at that same position, you don't just roll off of guys who are also good. If we're going to be a running team, with Quinshon Judkins, we need the two tight ends. David Njoku blocking on his side, and when we run split zone up the middle, when we run split zone and you have Harold Fannin coming across and blocking the D end on the opposite side of the run, it's been beautiful. They get so many yards from it. So you want two of them. I'm not the person that says, oh, we got Harold Fannin, so we get rid of David Njoku. And then also based on how David Njoku's contract is and the dead cap hit, I think it is better for the team to re-sign David Njoku. So that's my takes on it. Y'all, it's about that time, just up under the 2-hour mark, hour, 47 minutes. This has been a great show. Really good show. I will be live tomorrow, so make sure you like, comment, subscribe on my YouTube channel. I'll be live tomorrow. We'll be talking quarterbacks. We'll be looking at a couple college quarterbacks. We're going to kick somebody off the mountain. I think y'all know who it is, but we're going to be kicking somebody off the mountain for college QBs tomorrow. We're going to be breaking down, why is his name slipping me? Cam Ward getting his first win and how he actually got his first win, which was crazy. We're going to be breaking that down. We're going to be looking at Jackson Dart taking his first L, and we'll be breaking that down. So tomorrow, Tuesday, is for quarterbacks. We'll be talking quarterbacks tomorrow. So tap in tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m., same time, same place. I'll be live talking quarterbacks. I appreciate y'all for being here with me. It's been great. Remember, I gave you the answers to the test, so when people try to feed you all these negative narratives about why you got to keep somebody here and loser mentality, you got the answers to combat them when they say it to you. Make sure y'all tap in tomorrow. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace. It's been real.